Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for staying with us. It is a Friday morning, and we are in studio coming to you from downtown Scarborough, Port Mall to be exact. And our first guest is joining us virtually this morning. She is Mrs. Reesa Ramlogan-Jodha, and she sits on the executive of the Oil Workers Trade Union as the second vice president. Good morning, Reesa.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure being here this morning. Good morning to the beautiful Isles of Tobago. I was just enjoying your advertisement.
And I really wish that you could have joined me in person this morning, but we know how things go sometimes. Of course, we can still get the relevant information from you. Before we talk about this specific event, just tell us a little about your role on the executive of the OWTU.
Okay, I am the second vice president of the Oilfields Workers Trade Union, as you would have correctly identified. And in addition to that, I am the executive officer with responsibility for the TNTech unit. While, yes, I would have general oversight, just as any other executive officer relative to all of our units, I am specifically assigned to the day-to-day operations of the TNTech unit.
Right, and tomorrow, Saturday, we see that there is an event being hosted or executed by the Oilfield Workers Trade Union. Can you tell us about it? I know the name of it is Nation in Crisis. So tell us a little more about this event and what we can expect coming out of it.
Sure. Well, actually, the event tomorrow is an event that was called by the Joint Trade Union Movement, of which the Oilfields Workers Trade Union is a part of. This event tomorrow came about as a result of what would have transpired relative to the SRC and the proposed salary increases that apparently are being accepted. And that action by the government would have been the final blow. And we are at a place where we have not only we as TNTech, but we as workers and we as citizens, we have been bearing a significant burden because we were being told, that the times are hard, we need to tighten our belt. But we are seeing now where apparently the times are only hard for us as citizens of this country, and in particular us as workers who continue to keep the economy turning. And we are not going to sit down and take that anymore. It's time as a people we rise up and we ensure that our voices are heard. We are highly dissatisfied with what is happening, highly dissatisfied. And we are going to show our dissatisfaction on Saturday, which is tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm. And where are you going to show up in your numbers to let the country and let the government know that you are dissatisfied?
We are going to be outside of the Whitehall. We are gathering from 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, Saturday. And we are asking people to come out in their numbers. We know that there are some persons who may not be able to be present because they have to work. We are also asking that these citizens drive with their lights on to show another form of protest relative to what has been taking place.
Mm-hmm. And if I can just ask the director to put up the flyer that has Oilfield Workers Trade Union, because as you were speaking just now, the flyer that went up is the Communications Workers Union, but I want us to look at TNTech workers' struggle in particular. So I hope they find that particular flyer where some of the issues that you have been having are highlighted. So if you can share maybe in a little more detail what you are standing up against tomorrow in terms of looking at TNTech specifically.
Okay, so I just sent you the flyer. So you have it in your possession.
Right.
But what I can tell you is this would have started, the TNTech struggle would have started a couple weeks ago. And actually, I would have been observing that even the members of the public in Tobago, in some instances, have been joining in with the TNTech comrades and supporting their struggle. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the citizens of Tobago for supporting the TNTech workers. The TNTech workers, for a very long time, we have been holding up the company. And when I say holding up, we have been doing way above and beyond what we are supposed to do as workers to ensure that the citizens can enjoy a reliable supply of electricity. The public would not know, But in TNTech, we have been operating in some instances without proper tools, without proper PPE, without the materials needed. And
Right.
when these things happen, it is those members of the public that suffer,
Right.
right? And at the end of the day, it is easy to put a stigma on the TNTech workers, if you don't know what the TNTech workers do to ensure that lights can go on. And
Right.
TNTech workers sacrifice. And what would have made it even worse is that the TNTech worker is stuck on 2014 salaries in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
In For the period 2015 to 2017, that matter went before the industrial court, and the industrial court, in their judgment, would have acknowledged that the TNTech worker is deserving of a salary increase. However, the judgment indicated that it could not have been funded. So
Right.
000 was awarded for that period. And then we fast track now to 18 to 20, 2018 to 2020. That negotiation started last year, sometime around September. And the last meeting held between parties, the company and the union, would have been sometime in November of last year. And since then, despite numerous requests from the union, there has not been a meeting at the table following November of last year. The company is claiming that they have not yet received the mandate. Now, the company is claiming that they have not received the mandate, but here we are seeing that those that are in authority are securing themselves, and that could
Right.
never be right. That
Right.
could never be right.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that sometimes the general public is not aware of what's happening at TNTech and what workers have to go through. And I must ask, because you are right, many times when we hear about any trade union, it's usually the call for more money. And generally, the public will say, but you see so many workers wasting time, or their approach to their work, etc. How do you get the public then to buy in and understand that? Yeah, workers, you may have one or two bad ones like in any profession, but workers are doing their best and they are not equipped, because many times too we only hear about these things when you have events like this. And I always think it's important for the public to really understand what's going on.
Yes, and I'm glad that you would have given the opportunity for me to speak to that, because really and truly the struggle of the tea and tech worker, yes, it is also about fair wages, but overall and generally speaking, the struggle of the tea and tech workers is to be able to ensure a better and more reliable supply of electricity to the citizens of this country, and I'll tell you why. When we have to work and we don't have proper working vehicles, we cannot get to you to do whatever is required to ensure that your supply is returned. When we don't have the materials, we have to come on site, and instead of being able to complete the job, we have to bring back a report saying, well, we don't have this and we don't have that. And then
Right.
time drags on with the jobs being incomplete. When we don't have the appropriate PPE, for example, FRC and
Mm-hmm.
boots, remember this is live, electricity is live.
Yes,
This is what you're
yes.
dealing with. And if you're not properly outfitted, then you cannot leave the yard to go out and do what you have to do. What we have been
Definitely.
seeing is that the procurement legislation is being blamed in TNTech for a number of the inefficiencies when it comes to procurement. But this TNTech is considered an essential service.
Right.
And if it's an essential service, then the company has to find ways and means by which to get vehicles inspected, to get spares procured, to purchase boots and to purchase FRC and all that is needed for the TNTech worker to go out and service the public.
Right.
This battle that we are in, this struggle that we are in, is not only about money, it is also about ensuring that the citizens can enjoy a reliable supply, a supply that they are paying for. It's not a free
Right.
service, it is a
Right.
paid service.
Mm. And you mentioned that the procurement process is being blamed, and I find that quite interesting because that procurement legislation is quite new, and I doubt that things just go awry, or your vehicles just go down overnight. So it's interesting that a new process is being blamed, or rather being held responsible for keeping back some of the things that you need addressed. One of the things on your flyer the last point that's mentioned, of course, this is just a snapshot of the issues, and I would just read from it. It says, there's also a proliferation of contract work where contractors are given materials while workers are left without. Comment on that.
Yes, and this is indeed a reality because members of the public will see contractors out there in their vehicles doing work, and oftentimes the materials that are required by the TNTech worker to do the same work, we don't have it available to our workers.
Right.
And it's really hard and it's really disheartening when, as a worker in an organization who continue to give your all and then some, in the majority of instances, you have to go to work and be faced with these kind of challenges. It is very demotivating to know
Right.
that you need a particular material, it's not available in the stores for whatever reason, but the contractor has the material. So while you sit and wait for the material, the contractor is being given the job to go out and do the work that you are supposed to be doing. And mind you, that is a burden on the purse of the public, because where you are paying a TNTech worker to do something they can't do, and you're
Right.
also paying a contractor
Contractor,
so they
right.
can do the same job. We would have attempted in our this period of negotiations that we are in to put things in place to tighten up relative to the use of contractors. And the company was not open to it. The company would have refused the union's proposal. And that was a proposal that would have ensured that the contractors are being audited, that they are paying their workers what they're
Right.
supposed to be paid. Because the contractors workers, they come into the organization and they tell you they get way less than they are supposed to be getting. So when we tell the company, audit the book of the contractors to ensure that the contractors are not pocketing all of the profits, but they
Right.
are fairly compensating their employees, the company has refused to do that. They have refused, and it can never speak to a transparent operation. Never.
Right. And it's interesting as well, anytime you hear trade unions speak out against negotiations, wage negotiations in particular, it's always for a period that's quite in the past. Why is that so? Why aren't negotiations for current years, and it's always, something historical?
And that is something that it's not as prevalent as you may think it is. There are a number of units that are quite up to date. They are within
Okay.
period. But in our instance, we would like to move forward with our negotiations to bring it up to date. But when we have the management stalling, it makes it difficult. And what happens as a result of that is that other things that you can secure for your members outside of those related to cost money, it's difficult because it's a retroactive period. So it would not make any sense at that point in time. So if we had to put things in place to ensure that workers can enjoy other benefits that are not related to any sort of a monetary compensation, the periods have to be updated. So let us sit and let us close off the outstanding periods and let us bring the collective agreement up to date. That's something that the union would like to do in this particular situation with TNTech.
Right, most definitely. And even revisiting the point you made in terms of contractors coming and the public bearing the burden of paying twice for a job, so to speak. I remember in the last incident where the Tobago TNTech workers who work in the field could not, complete calls and go out there because of vehicles having issues. And I am quite aware that contractors came from Trinidad, and I would have heard, that some of the workers, again, feeling more demoralized because they were saying that, these contractors are coming, they are putting them up in hotels or guest houses and treating them in a good way, and then we are here and we can't even get the basic tools we need to execute our duties, and we are getting the bad name. So it's again, when we look at this, it's quite interesting, and it's good to know that there's representation being made for the TNTech workers, and that you're letting us know what's happening out there. Because again, from the general stance of things, many times we perceive trade unions just to have that voice when they are asking for more wages. I saw a video recently on social media. I don't know if it's current. I wasn't able to check the date. where a fire tender was taking a corner and someone fell out of the vehicle. And, the issue again about OSHA, health and safety, and using equipment that is faulty, even, your trucks that you need to get around, that came to the forefront again. But I really don't know if it's something that is quite current, but I would imagine, whether it's current or not, to go through that experience, being on your job, you're in your work vehicle, and, you just randomly have that type of accident where you literally fall out of your vehicle.
Yes. Yes, I saw
So,
the video yesterday. I didn't have time to check it out myself to
yes,
determine if it's current or not. But the thing about it is, I know that our comrades across at fire services, they have been having challenges as well.
right,
Even if I bring it back home to TNTech, I have been receiving videos from our workers in the field, where they're out in the field, rain started to fall, and they have to be using cups and bags inside of the vehicle to catch water
right.
because they're getting wet inside of the vehicles. And to have to work in those kind of conditions, it's not nice. It's really not nice. And when you fall ill, the company wants to write you because they're saying that you are abusing your leave. You have to work longer hours because the company is understaffed. And when you get tired and you can't come out to work, the company finds that you should be there. But the correct thing to do is to properly staff the organization so that workers can get the rest that they require to be able to go out and do the kind of work that they have to do. Any shift work, I will tell you that shift work is not easy. It takes a toll on your body.
True.
It takes a toll on your health.
And who's held accountable? Is it that, because again, we're using the vehicles as your as an example, because it's easy to paint a picture with that. A vehicle leaking and having to use a cup or whatever to collect water when it's raining. That didn't happen overnight. Is there somebody in charge of fleet management? Is it that the driver has a duty to report these things and it's not being done? Where does the box, who does it stop with?
And that's the point exactly. And I'm glad that you said it. It didn't happen overnight. And yes, there is a process in place to identify vehicular issues as soon as they arise. And a whole don't appear overnight.
Right.
So this would have been reported and it was just left that way.
Right.
And again, procurement is being blamed. And in many instances, I'll take this opportunity to say this. In many instances, some of the issues would have been reported to the local area managements because TNTech has 5 areas. Right. And the area oftentimes will say, well, we made the report higher up, but procurement is the issue. But TNTech, way before the full proclamation of the procurement legislation, would have put an entire department in place, to prepare for this proclamation that was announced sometime last year, April, I believe it was. So this did not come as any shocking news to TNTech. In fact, there are key persons in TNTech who would have conducted critical training across the public sector relative to procurement. So how could we be doing training on the outside, but we can't get it right in our own house? Something is wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think members of the public need to pay attention to issues like this and not just say, well, it doesn't have anything to do with me, because I am thinking, it's taxpayers' money. I'm working hard too, and I'm paying taxes, and if it is you, historically, we are people who, I don't know, we don't maintain buildings, we don't maintain vehicles. We wait until the thing cannot work. Look at the Ministry of National Security. We're talking about Coast Guard vessels. How could you not have a vessel underwater? And you're telling me all the vessels are down at the same time. Something has to be wrong with the way we are handling our assets, the way we are handling equipment, the way we are handling the process of maintaining what we have for employees, for people to execute their jobs. And, I find very often it's just swept over because, again, who is held accountable? That person or persons continue to, hold their jobs year in, year out. And these things are happening under their watch. We definitely have to take a stand against things like that.
And this is why the commission has attempted to muzzle the TNTech workers by filing for injunctive release a couple Sundays ago, because they don't want the members of the public to know what is happening in TNTech. But what is happening in TNTech TNTEC affects the members of the public in more than one ways. They have to suffer as a result of not having proper tools and equipment in-house. And also they have to pay because, you rightly said, I pay my taxes. I pay my taxes, and it's my taxes that goes towards, funding a lot of these state operated organizations.
Right.
And when it is, we see these things happening, members of the public, we need to make the connection as to how it affects us as citizens of this country.
Most definitely. And I just want you to recap again the event tomorrow. Tell us again, the purpose of it. Although we get that, but just remind us and the event, the time and place, and again, who can come out and support.
Sure. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we will be gathering outside of the Whitehall. We will be coming out in our numbers, not only as workers, but as citizens of this country who would have ensured that, we would have been doing what we are supposed to do to try and face the reality that is before us relative to, all of the challenges we face as an economy.
Right.
However, in light of that, we have received a significant slap in the face by the government who has signaled their intention to accept the proposal of the SRC. And before I go on, I just want the TNTEC worker would have sat and they would have done a performance appraisal of this government. And we are seeing where crime is concerned, it has been a total failure.
Right.
Our roadways, you all have some nice roads in Tobago, but in Trinidad, here now, you would wonder sometimes if these are major roadways that we have to be driving on. Total failure. Well, Forex is a disaster by itself. That's a complete failure. The economy on the whole, the economy has gone backwards. Health is in a deplorable state. Water for all. Water now seems to be a luxury and not an essential item that, we can enjoy as citizens. And education is struggling. That does not deserve a 47% increase. And as we continue to do what we have to do as workers in this country to ensure that, we can contribute, we have to stand up for what is right and for what is just. We have to come out in our numbers tomorrow and we have to make our voices heard, be a part of history. And for those, as I said, who cannot be there for whatever reason, once you're outside, drive with your headlights on and send that message that you are not in agreement with what is happening. This country is really a nation that is in crisis, and the people, it is now up to us, the people, to stand up and to fix what has been sent into a rabbit hole. We have to pull it out as a country.
And thank you so much, Reesa Ramlogan-Jodha, who sits on the executive of the OWTU as the second vice president. Thank you so much for sharing with us, letting us know exactly what's happening. And I wish you and your comrades all the best as you join forces tomorrow to represent the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure being here.
All right, viewers, we go for a quick break and we will be right back with another guest, a gentleman who is no stranger to Tobago, Trinidad, and even the world at large. He may describe himself otherwise, but as soon as we return from the other side of this break, you'll meet him. Stay tuned.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning.